It's Monday, February 28th, 2011. In this week's BeakerBeat, while Hollywood's best and brightest walk the red carpet, more and more of the best and brightest in the life sciences biz are walking the unemployment line. More on that coming up. Plus, foreign films always seem to do well on Oscar night, and now some big players in pharma and biotech are heading to foreign shores. We'll tell you why. And hot flashes and depression. Sounds like what Oscar nominees suffer through, but now there could be a way to treat both ailments at the same time. All that and more in this week's edition of BeakerBeat. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice, thanks for tuning in. Well, last night was the Oscars, hope you enjoyed the show. They did have a category, Best Director. Now in the life sciences biz, one company that would not qualify for Best Direction is Medtronic. Medtronic is planning to cut between 1,500 and 2,000 jobs. The medical device giant made the announcement as it reported its fiscal year 2011 third quarter financial results. Simultaneously, they also cut their full year earnings forecast. Medtronic now expects fiscal year 2011 diluted earnings per share in the range of $3.38 to $3.40, down 4 cents from previous forecasts. Now, in a statement, the company says in order to position itself for long-term sustainable growth, it will restructure its business. This will come through cost-saving measures, tighter expense management, and voluntary programs to minimize layoffs. Medtronic said in a statement, quote, based on current expectations, the company intends to reduce its workforce by 4 to 5%, or 1,500 to 2,000 positions during the fourth quarter, and also expects to recognize a one-time charge in fourth quarter related to this restructuring. Medtronic employs 41,000 people worldwide. And one analyst says this shows the company is in the same straits it's been in for the last 24 to 36 months, and there is still the question of leadership moving forward. CEO Bill Hawkins is stepping down at the end of April, and there has been no clear successor, unlike in recent retirements from giant life sciences companies. Many are speculating how the future will play out for Medtronic, and right now there seem to be more questions than answers. On a positive note, the company reported worldwide revenue of $3.96 billion during the quarter versus $3.85 billion during the same period of 2010, a 3% jump. So clearly Medtronic is not going to win anything for Best Direction, but they could win a Razzie for Worst Direction. Hopefully they'll iron things out in the near term. So tell us what you think about this story or any story that you see in today's show. It's very simple. Click on the orange button below me. A box will pop up. Type in your comments. Send it to me. I promise I'll read and respond to every one of them. And when you're done watching BeakerBeat, check out Beaker's blog, where we dive into the million or even billion-dollar question for all drug makers: how likely is your drug to win approval? Plus, Congress grills the FDA. Find out why. Those stories and more on Beaker's blog. So during the Oscars, it's always fun to have a Best Picture nominee from a foreign land. You know, those foreign guys are often a lot of fun, like Mr. Benigni. Roberto! Now, as far as the life sciences biz goes, we have a category here at Beaker. We call it Best Performance in a Foreign Land, and AstraZeneca takes top honors. AstraZeneca plans to spend $150 million on a Russian manufacturing plant. AZ says it plans for the facility to produce cancer treatments, cardiovascular drugs, and other products by the spring of 2013. Russia pledged $3.9 billion to help develop a domestic pharma industry, but also set a local market share target of 90%, meaning that foreign drug makers need to set up local operations to get their share of state help. Plus, Russia expects foreign drug makers to transfer technology to domestic players and will punish those that don't manufacture in-country and lend a hand to Russian firms. Sounds like the mob. Maybe that's why AZ's Russian plans include investment in R&D as well. AZ joins a growing list of companies hoping to capture a share of a drug market that's expected to grow dramatically over the next several years. Novartis plans to invest $500 million there over the next 5 years. Novo Nordisk is building an insulin plant there, and GSK recently teamed up with Russia's Sinopharm to make and sell GSK vaccines. The Oscars weren't the only event drawing a crowd this past week. In the life sciences biz, the 20th annual Biotech Life Science Conference took place in Raleigh, North Carolina. The annual get-together was presented by CED in partnership with the North Carolina Biotechnology Center and the North Carolina Biosciences Organization, or NC Bio. The event has grown from a small gathering to the biggest event of its kind in the entire Southeast.
We have the third largest life science cluster in the country. We're growing at a rate that's faster than the average rate for the life science industry nationally, and of course faster than the economy in North Carolina generally.
Well, we have the next 2 days. We are bringing together the entire community really across North Carolina to talk about the business of biotechnology, the science of biotechnology, and we have really an opportunity to come together as a state. But it's not just people from North Carolina. We actually have people from all over the world that typically come to this conference. Expect at least 1,000 6,000 people here. We have 543 biotechnology companies spread across this state. We have another 120 or so companies that are involved as contract research organizations. So we have people and manufacturing and all of the service providers all across the state. There's a good representation of people.
It's an opportunity to partner. There are a number of venture capitalists here. There are a number of large pharma companies here that will be talking to small companies about technologies that they might like to acquire. It's an opportunity to educate our members. So there's just a wealth of opportunities here. I think that the object of the game is to make the community a better community.
Time for some quick hits now, and what's becoming as redundant as Meryl Streep earning an Oscar nomination, J&J announced yet another recall. You know, at least Streep gets a trophy. Johnson & Johnson had 2 recalls to report this week. In consumer drugs, its McNeil Consumer Healthcare Unit is pulling 9 lots of Sudafed tablets, or 667,000 packages, because of a labeling error. It's the second recall of a Sudafed product this year. When McNeil announced the previous Sudafed recall, the company said it had found insufficient cleaning procedures on the production line. Also, J&J is removing about 400 of its Symphony injection pens from the U.S. and German markets. A manufacturing flaw causes the pens to administer an incorrect dosage of the arthritis drug. These are the 3rd and 4th J&J episodes this month. Abbott Labs doesn't have to pay $1.8 billion for violating a Johnson & Johnson patent when it developed its big-selling rheumatoid arthritis drug Humira. That's according to the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. It was a record-breaking patent infringement judgment awarded by a jury in a Marshall, Texas court. That jury determined Abbott had followed J&J's patented antibody process to develop Humira. But as the Wall Street Journal reports, the appeals court disagreed, saying the 2 companies had used different development strategies and produced different antibodies as a result. What's more, the court ruled that J&J's patent claims were invalid, so they couldn't be infringed anyway. J&J is now mulling its options. Stryker's orthopedics unit has unveiled 2 apps for use with Apple's iPad to improve communication between surgeons and patients. The Stryker Flip Chart is meant to help explain joint replacement surgeries to patients, and the OpTech Live provides information on Stryker's surgical protocols and devices. UC San Francisco officially opened its $123 million Center for Stem Cell Research on its Parnassus Avenue campus. The 80,000 square foot structure is named after Ray and Dagmar Dolby of Dolby Labs, who donated $36 million toward the building. The FDA has issued its long-awaited final guidance on process validation, confirming several recommendations that raised industry concerns with the draft version. For example, it recommends drug makers continue monitoring and sampling process parameters and quality attributes at the same level established during process qualification until there is enough data to make significant variability estimates. The guidance divides process validation into 3 stages: process design, process qualification, and continued process verification. The final version also urges companies to use objective measures, such as stat metrics, to assure they understand their commercial processes. Checking Money Matters, and Forest Labs is gobbling up clinical data for $1.2 billion. This comes just weeks after clinical data won a surprising approval for a new antidepressant. Forest Labs is paying $30 a share plus a CVR that could top out at $6. That's much more than the stock was trading at prior to the approval, but could be seen as a letdown for investors considering the stock's $33.90 close on Friday. The Forest price reflects its interest in Vybrid, the newly approved antidepressant that is making a claim that it is safer and triggers fewer sexual side effects than other SSRI drugs now on the market. AstraZeneca hopes to sell its AstraTech dental implants business for about $2 billion, and they may get what they're asking for. Reuters reports that about 20 bidders are in the running for the group, which is based in Sweden. It's the world's 3rd biggest maker of dental implants, with $535 million in 2010 sales, but also makes some medical devices as well. Illinois-based private equity firm GTCR will pay $675 million to buy sterilization technologies provider Sterigenics International from Silver Fleet Capital. The deal is expected to conclude during the second quarter, pending approval from antitrust regulators. Finally today, you know the whole point of Oscar night is to win one of these. Well, this isn't really an Oscar, it's a telly that I won for something else, but it looks kind of the same. It's a bald guy and all that. Anyway, so the whole point is for these guys to take one of these things home. Now, if they don't take one home, they can get depressed. Sometimes they can even get hot flashes. Well, luckily, there's a new treatment potentially that's coming out that could treat both of those things. What do hot flashes and depression have in common? Well, a new study shows they can both be treated with antidepressants with great success. The study shows that Lexapro helped reduce the number and severity of hot flashes by about a 20% margin over placebo, adding to evidence that depression therapies may help women who want to avoid hormone treatments. It's the first study to gauge how an antidepressant works against hot flashes in women who aren't depressed. Hormone drugs carry the potential risks of stroke, ovarian cancer, and breast cancer, so many women don't want to use them at all. Thus, an alternative is a potential gold mine. No word on whether Forest Labs plans to seek a new indication based on this data. So, if you can't take home an award, at least you can treat what ails you. Well, that's it for this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. You like me, Jeremy. You really like me. Sit, Beaker. Sit. Good dog. You want to hold it, don't you? You want to touch it.
Looks like the hood ornament of my old Buick.
Stop it. You want to do that again?
To Excelsior!